It's very strange reading the news nowadays because it seems to be Trump versus America all around. I don't know what's happening and why it's happening, but Trump is weaponizing ICE to an insane degree and is actively making me messed up in how we actually run a federal government or anything of that variety. So Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is signing an order for ICE-free zones on city properties. So let's read through and see what's happening here. We're just going to read this little summary. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson signed an executive order on Monday designating city-owned properties as zones where U.S. immigration and customs enforcement agents cannot conduct operations. That's because of the nonsense going on in Chicago right now. But also Portland, Oregon is also going against the nonsense of what Trump is doing. It seems to be Portland is not having a good time because Trump is making these boisterous, wild, ridiculous, near exaggerated claims of the city being burned to the ground and it's on fire as Portland is going crazy. I believe Trump takes a lot of anecdotal evidence and then proceeds to say, oh, this is exactly what's happening. They're essentially turning our cities into battle zones. In Chicago, the Trump administration launched Operation Midway Blitz. If you don't know what that is, it's an ICE crackdown across Illinois aimed at undocumented immigrants with criminal records. But they're taking regular people in, and those people are actually getting wrongfully deported, and it's getting really upset. There's hundreds of arrests, raids, helicopters rappelling into homes, children pulled from buildings. It's a show of force. It is a wild, ridiculous reminder that federal power is no longer content to operate behind closed doors. It wants to be visible. It wants to imitate. It wants to remind people who's boss. But the cities are fighting back. And that's the best thing about the whole thing. The cities are actually going crazy. I love the fact that Brandon Johnson actually did sign an ICE-free zone executive order. Places such as schools, libraries, parks, and other city-owned property where federal agents can't enter without proper warrants. Because you can't just sidetrack all the due process. That's a little bit messed up. My glasses are a little bit messy. I'm just going to keep them that way and have them be that way the entire way through. Look a little bit nonsense. I'm going to keep that. It's a very real attempt to limit federal intrusion into the public fabric of the city, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the mayor actually doing that. It's him telling Trump, you may have power, but you're not omnipotent. Because I remember in the beginning of the Trump campaign, many people, conservatives especially, were saying, oh, we're going to limit. It's not the fact that we don't want the federal government to step in. We want to have us decide. Every city should have its own rules and things of that variety. Well, this is different than the cities having its own rules. It's actively, and I do mean actively, them coming in and taking the federal power. That's disgusting. It violates state sovereignty and constitutional bounds. That's what's happening here. And Chicago may have a grounds to actually sue them. And there goes Portland. Oh my God. Portland is horrible. I hate it. I really do hate it. Trump tried to send National Guard troops to suppress protests around ICE facilities. The federal judge, Karen Emmergut, blocked it. She cited statutory limitations and constitutional limitations. That's just too much. It was overreaching because the administration has been doing a lot of, you guessed it, overreaching, especially since the unrest in Portland was being handled by local law enforcement. It's the stupid. The victory showed that even judge appointed by Trump recognized boundaries that cannot be ignored without consequences, because she was a Trump appointed judge, but everybody's calling her a traitor now. They're saying, oh, you're a traitor. You're not letting Trump do whatever he wants to. That's insane. It's telling how the administration is responding. They're not conceding error. They're doubling down. In Illinois, despite a judge refusing to immediately block deployment, the White House has requested troops from Texas to come through. Trump's spokesperson and spokespeople accuse city leaders of being weak, of aiding criminals, of undermining law and order. They evoke war zone rhetoric, painting cities as in collapse without federal intervention. But when you paint a city as chaos, people feel like anything goes, including military occupations. The language being used is very deliberate because it's not about immigration anymore. Immigration is a front for unbridled and unrestricted power. When a federal administration can soup into a jurisdiction, override local governance, bypass mayors and governors, and move troops as if those cities were foreign territory, that erodes democracy. It tells local leaders, stay in line or we'll send in soldiers. It tells citizens your ballots mean less than your federal will, because it's supposed to be state sovereignty, right? That's exactly what people wanted when they were voting in Trump. They wanted state sovereignty. But we're not getting that. We're not getting this state sovereignty, and it's a little bit nuts to see that. And I say this all the time. And I say this all the time. It feels very like authoritarian tactics. That's what's happening. And look how lethal this gets. In Chicago, a protester was shot by Border Patrol agents and claims of being ambushed. That's what's going on there. ICE agents are using tear gas, smoke grenades, and chemical munitions in raids in urban residential neighborhoods where children are. That's horrible. Families report agents rappelling from helicopters into homes, children escorted away, citizens detained without clarity on charges. That's martial intrusion. You can't do that. You are weaponizing the U.S. Army and the U.S. Federal Forces. You're weaponizing it. That's not what you should do. You shouldn't hold your power that way. Cities understand the optics and legality. Portland's legal team called the federal government deployment. What they're doing, it was a gamesmanship, accusing Trump of using one state's military to override judicial orders in another. Oregon's governor said she hadn't even been properly consulted. Meanwhile, California joined the lawsuit, arguing the federal government was trying to federalize National Guard troops across state lines without consent. This is really bad. And yeah, I know that a lot of people are saying, oh, but what about the little immigrants? What about this? What's going on? I agree that we should have better borders. I'll agree with you there. I will concede that point. You have my full power. You have my full backing that we should have better border patrol. I agree. But these heavy-handed tactics, these authoritarian wild things are hurting real people outside of just the immigrants who you think aren't real people. What's most disheartening to me is how federal power so often treats local resistance as a threat. When a mayor signs an order restricting ICE access, when a governor refuses consent, when other communities protest, suddenly they're framed as lawless or criminally weak. But the real lawlessness is the federal overreach. The forced deployment of soldiers against their will, the use of military lingo in domestic streets. That's what we should call lawlessness. That's what's going on. If we don't push back as a people, as a unity, legally, politically, morally, then the next deployment becomes easier. The next may not need legal cover. We've seen how democracy erodes, not with sudden coups, but with incremental eroachment. Like, that's what's going on. Today, it's ICE in Chicago. Tomorrow, it'll be cameras, drones, curfews, marshal tents. Cities are fighting back, and they have to fight hard through courts, through ordinance, through protests, because if they don't, citizens don't lose their safety. They lose the idea that this country belongs to its people, and that's what we wanted to avoid. We wanted to avoid exactly this. That's why we formed America in the first place. Cities are not powerless. They are battered, stretched, pushed to the edge, but resistance is real. Like Chicago's blocking federal troops on its public property. That's a huge step. Oregon courts block the most aggressive moves. That's a huge step. Mayors, governors, activists are mobilizing, suing, marching, and that's what matters. Because if cities let this slide, it won't just be their autonomy gone. It'll be all of ours. And I wouldn't want that for any of you. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below, because this is really scary. It's really scary.
I'm your Nick and Night, be my Laurel, happy to try what you need. Your world, I love to live in it. I love the ride when you're free.